class, I'm going to be showing you how to draw a grid. This grid is going to be used for your painting purposes for color mixing exercise, but there may be instances where I use this grid in other classes. So if you're seeing this grid drawing in another class, it may be because you guys need to do a grid, and I wanted to show you just a quick helpful hint on how to create a grid that is consistent. So what you want to do is you want to find the clean side. One of your sides might be cleaner than the other. This was the outside edge cut by at the factory. So I'm gonna actually work from that side, and because that will create more consistency. So I'm gonna go through and I'm working on a 1-inch grid. There may be instances where you need to do a 2-inch grid in another class. But the paint mixing chart that we do in my Art 240 class, we do a 1-inch grid for paint mixing. But just kind of file this away. This is a good trick to be using in other instances if you need to create a grid. And I do them all the time. Okay, so I have tick marks every inch, very consistently measured up there, and tick marks across here every inch. And then I don't just eyeball it. I use the lines, the little marks, and I make sure I've lined up on it properly. And the thing is, sometimes people think these parts of the exercise are trivial or unnecessary, but just think about it with every single time that you're building a new skill. And that skill is, takes time for you to build patience and to measure consistently and to draw the lines correctly and to follow directions. And all of those are things that you're going to be using in your professional career as an artist. I do grids all the time. There have been numerous instances where I create grids for one reason or another, whether I'm copying a photograph or translating a photograph for one purpose or another, where I need to map out the proportions. I've often worked at varied scale, where I have a small drawing and I need to scale it up, or I have a small model and I need to draw it larger. So being able to create a proper, correct grid that is going to give you some consistency is a skill that translates across numerous classes. And so I am... See, mine slipped a little bit, so I'm just double checking myself. Okay, so I have my lines going one way. Now I'm ready to do them the other way. I'm actually going to turn my mat so I'm not hanging off the mat or something weird when I draw my lines. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. And I have up to 12 inches. So every inch, I'm making sure this is lined up. Every inch, I'm going to mark my inch mark. And I'm going to create that little tick mark, just little mark, so I know where to line things up when I get ready to draw my grid going this way. And I'm going to make my marks here. Just all the way, just a hair. So I'm going to correct that. Okay. 9, 10, 11, and then the edge is 12. All right, and all I then need to do is go in, and I've lined up at my little tick mark here. I know you guys have a little bit of a glare there, and I've lined up at my tick mark there, and I make my line going this way, and I just go all the way down, and you will see that I have a nice consistent grid. I could probably work on getting that just a little bit lighter. Sometimes if I need the lines to be not visible because I'm going to be painting really, really light colors, I'm going to be mixing really light colors, then I might actually lighten them by semi-erasing them. And that can be just like a little nice little helpful hint, so that when you're mixing paint and trying to paint these, for any of you doing the color mixing with this technique, on your grid, then you're not fighting that, and you don't have graphite mixing into your paint. And it's, it's pretty minor, But one of the things I would, make a suggestion of is that you are always working on refining your craftsmanship skills and being aware of the minute details, and know that some of us, that comes naturally. I say some of us. I'm not natively and naturally the most meticulous person in some ways. And then in other ways, I'm very, very meticulous. If you ever see my artwork, you'll say, you are not meticulous at all. So that is how you create a very beautiful, consistent, even kind of grid that can be used for any number of things, whether it's a color mixing exercise or if you need to use it for mapping out some other kind of image. You can do that on top of an existing picture or something. But like I said before, you might come in and just sort of lighten up those lines just a little bit so you don't have so much, kind of just enough that you can see where your marks and where your lines are. Or if you used a really light pencil, you can, my pencil is sort of heavy-handed, and so I'm just wanting to do this. The other thing, my kneaded eraser, I think I'm just using a kneaded eraser. The other thing I could do is kind of go in and just more like press on that a little bit, and that is a great way to do that and not smudge. This is not smudging too badly because it's on an acrylic pad, and that has a little bit of sizing or something in it that makes that surface a little tiny bit slicker than like watercolor pads and things like that. And so right now I'm just kind of lightening that up. And if you were to be transferring an image from a photograph and using this technique, and you're going to be painting or drawing or something, you might want these lines really, really light. We're going to be using, in this class for this semester, we're using this most commonly for the color mixing, and we're going to be working on getting those colors really opaque and beautifully covered and all of that. So that'll be the next video that you see and part of the demonstration in our live lesson that we have in the color mixing class, if you're in that class. So, and in other instances, we'll use this in other ways. But you can see I lightened those lines up. So I have one that's completed, a little heavier lines, and this one, which is lighter lines, and you can kind of evaluate which is the right one for your situation. So anyway, hopefully that'll help you get that set up so that you're ready to go, and it'll move through and it'll be really easy. So see you soon.